Hello and welcome to the Do Not Disturb Football Podcast. I am your host, Drew Pelter. In the black, that is Darian. We do not have Nimmer today. He is in Utah, so he will be missing out on this show. Darian, let's start with you. How are you doing today?
I was doing okay until DFW traffic happened. God, I was set to get home probably around like 6:45, 6:50, have ample time to, eat, talk with the wife. But that shit kicked in, started going up, went to 7 o'clock and was like, okay, that's 10 minutes, no problem, whatever. Then it went to 7:10, 7:15. And I was like, this is the worst traffic I've ever been in. Kept taking me off road, but was able to find a pocket and was able to race home, get here at 7:07, scarf down with some food, but made it here. Excited to be here. But yeah, that was a drag. Definitely having that traffic right before this. What about you?
I'm doing good. With me running the show, it is always such a different feel. So right now, I'm currently trying to sign in so we can see the chat to our YouTube. Just bear with me 1 second.
Damn, bro, there's like 20 characters for that password.
Oh yeah, I'm very secure with my with my passwords. I'm very, very secure. I try as hard as I can. I think we should be able to see it now. So let's get into the injury report real quick just to get it over with. Cardinals kicker Matt Prater is questionable with a knee injury. Bills wide receiver Khalil Shakur is questionable with an ankle injury. Panthers wide receiver Xavier Legette is questionable with a shoulder injury. Packers wide receiver, I forgot to put the name.
Romeo Dobbs, he's suspended.
Could be him. I thought there was someone else with an ankle injury, but
Christian Watson.
Christian Watson. He is questionable with ankle injury. Jaguars running back Travis Etienne is questionable with a shoulder injury. Raiders running back Zamir White is questionable with something when there's this weird thing. I have to like restart my computer every now and then on my notes because it starts typing like random stuff for me.
Is it like voice automated?
No, I don't know what it is. Like sometimes it just starts typing like weird stuff. Like I'll type stuff in and sometimes it like autocorrects, but then it like glitches and it puts like a bunch of different letters in. But anyways, it says Raiders Zamir Hoare is questionable with a groin injury. It's supposed to be Zamir White.
With how he's playing.
Oh. What? Oh, there we go. We're good. We're good. I don't think I'm gonna get those the boxes to move. That was weird. Let me see. I'm gonna try it one more time. I think I refreshed your box and that. There we go. Now we're good. Let's keep on going. Rams wide receiver Jordan Whittington is questionable with a shoulder injury. Coach Sean McVay said today that Cooper Kupp is eyeing a Week 7 return against Las Vegas. That's not this week, but the following week. But nothing is guaranteed. Dolphins running back Devon Achane is questionable with a concussion. Vikings running back Aaron Jones is questionable with a hip injury. I've heard that one's not too serious, but he could miss a week or two. Saints quarterback Derek Carr is questionable with an oblique injury. Giants running back Devin Singletary is questionable with a groin injury. Malik Neighbors is also questionable with a concussion. Jets quarterback Aaron Rodgers is questionable with an ankle injury. The Eagles wide receivers A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith are still questionable. Devontae has a concussion and A.J. has a hamstring injury. Steelers running back Jaylen Warren is doubtful for Week 8. 49ers kicker Jake Moody is questionable with an ankle injury. And George Kittle is also questionable with a rib injury for the Niners. Titans quarterback Will Levis is questionable with a shoulder injury, and Commanders wide receiver Noah Brown is questionable with a groin injury. So quite a few injuries this week. I thought at some point they would kind of slow down, but they seem like they're not slowing down. So
there's a new one freaking every day. I mean, did you say Nico Collins? I'm pretty sure he's out or doubtful.
yeah,
Mixon's still questionable. That whole offense is basically questionable, except for Tank. Tank, I think, is due back, but it's crazy the amount of injuries so far.
I saw that Nico could be out for a couple of weeks with a ankle injury.
Yeah, it's a rough go, honestly. But I mean, that's pretty clutch that Cup is coming back. I mean, week 7 return. Let's hope hopefully it's a gradual return, like on a limited snap count, and build him back in, because I know all those Cup owners are going to want him to go full force and put up his mad numbers like he did like week 1, week 2. So hopefully he comes back steady.
Definitely. Sorry, I was getting a message that my audio sounded a little soft, so I tried to fix it up a little bit. I'm getting more messages. This could be... Oh, no, that's just a funny thing. So let's talk about the Pick'em League. So Sammy is still number 1 in this league. I think I moved up to 3rd. And
bro, I forgot to put my selections in from this week, so I bombed a whole week. So I'm at like 35-28 or whatever. Same score as last week.
That's funny. Well, I guess that's why I'm in 3rd place.
Yeah, I was man. I was hurting. I was looking at it. I was like, how did I drop like 3 places? There's like no
the same thing. I was like, Darian dropped so far.
I was like, I know I didn't get that many wrong. Turns out I didn't get any right nor any wrong, so it just like didn't count for me. So a little upset by it, but is what it is.
Yeah. But let's congratulate Sammy. She's been kind of running this thing.
It's hers to win, honestly.
Yeah, she's only a couple games ahead of Nim, so Nim could catch up, and then we got to pay Nim $100, so that kind of sucks. But
yeah, I'd rather you guys like go on a nice date or something.
Exactly. I'm hoping I get second. I hope I overtake Nimmer, so then we'll just have a good night.
Yeah.
But let's get into probably the biggest story of the day that was out of New York with the Jets. Head coach Robert Saleh I'm not really sure if I've ever said his last name right. I think it's Salah or Saleh. Robert Saleh.
A lot of people say Saleh, but
Robert Saleh.
Salah, probably.
I don't know. I think he said it before, and I think he said it like how you said it, Saleh. So I guess it doesn't matter anymore because he doesn't have a job. He has been fired after a 2-3 start. Derry, let me get your reaction to this. Were you surprised by this move? Who do you think they're going to move forward with? Who do you think they'll hire? I know they hired the defensive coordinator as the interim head coach. Why do you think they fired him so quickly?
I don't know. I was reading the report that the CEO or the owner, something Johnson, he's a Nepo baby,
Woody.
Trust fund baby from Johnson & Johnson. What'd you say?
Woody Johnson.
Woody, yeah. So he was like, this decision was all mine, and then had Salah basically escorted out by security, which is protocol. But I guess Salah was super caught off guard, shocked by the decision. But I mean, if you look at it, he went 20-36 in his time so far, and like every other coach and like franchise QB, they say we're gonna win championships when I'm here. And when they don't, they're on the hot seat. So I can understand why Woody decided to get rid of him. He hasn't showcased that promise. Um, and this is probably one of the better teams that you've had in recent years. So he's coming out 2-3, kind of getting slapped around by Minnesota in the UK. It's embarrassing, especially being on different soil. So, I mean, I understand it. I don't think it was truly Salah's issue. I hate the offense. The Hackett, the offensive coordinator, I think is the true issue. The offense is so disjointed. Things aren't going the right way. And you also have Aaron Rodgers, who's kind of come in and been like the guiding force. Everyone's like, hey, Rodgers, what should we do? Oh, you want Randall Cobb, Alan Lazard? Sure, why not? Oh, you want Nathaniel Hackett? Great, we'll hire him. Like he's leading the office essentially. So it's kind of a weird situation. I don't think they fired the right guy. I think Hackett should have been the one to go. But it'll be really interesting on who they pick up as the new head coach. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's interesting because I saw two different reports, and these were not from like any big time reporters, but I saw one on Twitter from a different person and one on Instagram that Salah was gonna demote Hackett this morning and give the play calling up, and the Jets met with them and they said, actually, you're fired. So that's pretty crazy.
If that's the case, that's wild.
Yeah, I think it's such a crazy move to fire him after a 2-3 start. I mean, I get that, like you said, his record hasn't been the greatest. He seems sort of like he still kind of seemed like a new coach to me sometimes when I hear him talk on the podium.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of wonder like what's being said behind doors. I would imagine Aaron Rodgers has a lot to do with this, even though that Woody Johnson said that it was his decision only and whatever. I don't want to say too much about this because they're going to be my hot take. I think
Mm-hmm.
this was a ridiculous, or not my hot take, my rage cage. I think this was a ridiculous move. I don't understand why they would do this. Do you think that there's a chance they're going to hire Belichick?
I mean, that's a crazy kind of turn for him to be on the Patriots as long as he did, made the Jets his baby for, I mean, his entire tenure, and then to go and coach him would be crazy. Um, I mean, I like it. I think he needs to bring that win now discipline mindset, and having a younger coach or a newer coach of Salah, you don't really have that. You can't gather the troops around you. So, I mean, Belichick, he's got high regard, high respect for anyone in the league. So I think it'd be a good move.
I feel like I feel like they're definitely going to contact Belichick. Um, I would assume Rodgers is probably already pushing for Belichick to be the head coach.
Mhm.
I don't know if that's the right move. I've kind of talked about Belichick and what I think happens if he were to coach again. I think there's a lot of pressure on Belichick, especially in a situation with this Jets team. You'd come in and you have all the pressure on you in the world to win, especially with them 2-3. You can't. I mean, you can't really throw in a new head coach into this. This is why I don't really understand the move, because for the new coach they have, I can't remember his name. I just
Yeah,
had
the
it up.
defensive coordinator, it's a
Jeff Ulbrich.
yeah. He used to play for San Francisco.
Okay. So I would imagine his defense is closely aligned with Salah's, and they have a similar system. Um, but like you can't really bring in my mind, you can't really bring in Belichick because he's going to try to bring in a whole new system, and maybe it is fine for your defense, but like the offense, like it could be a whole different thing that the whole team would have to learn, and you can't really do that mid season.
Yeah. I mean, they probably just rock with Ulbrich for the year and then pick up somebody as soon as the offseason hits. Um, I mean, with how Woody Johnson is putting it, he wants this team to live up to their potential, which is a playoff team. Uh, I don't know if you get there with your interim head coach or DC. We'll see. I mean, let's just feed Brees Hall the ball and Garrett Wilson, get things snapping on all cylinders, and then win games. I mean, that's not most importance.
I think if if you're firing Salah after a 2-3 start, most likely there was probably doubts at the end of the season last year. You should
Mm-hmm.
have fired him then. To start the season now and 5 games in you fire him. That doesn't really happen very often. It's such a crazy like 360 move. I don't know how the Jets expect this to go. To me, this doesn't really make your team better in any single way. So I'm kind of embarrassed that I picked this team to win the division because it's not looking good. But
I
I'm
keep
gonna
telling you.
yeah I'm gonna I'm gonna save the rest of my mean words for the rage cage. Let's move on to the Devonte Adams news. So over the weekend, he posted a post on Instagram. It was a picture of Edgar Allan Poe.
Mhm.
For those that are like, what does that mean? One, maybe let's go back to English class and think about some of the things we learned about. He's famous for writing the poem The Raven. That's his most famous writing. Um, a lot of people drew the conclusion that this means he'll be going to the Ravens. I've heard some chatter that the Bills have entered the conversation and are now trying to get Devonte Adams. I would think that would be a very ideal spot for him. They kind of need a wide receiver one like that. But what do you think? Do you think he's destined to be a Raven now?
I mean, I always hate those like cryptic messages that players put out. Yeah, I mean, it stirs up controversy. It brings their story to the light, which I mean, it's huge news. Devontae being in Las Vegas, all the rumors of like he's unhappy here, and then him refuting them, saying like I never said that outright, and then it just kept being in the storylines, and then he was like, yeah, you know what, like I'm unhappy, like you forced my hand, I'm unhappy, I'm demanding a trade. So I mean the theatrics of it, I get. Perhaps that means he's a Raven. And I mean, trade talks got a little quiet as they usually do, especially going into the weekend of a game. Um, so I think movement could happen week 7. I think is probably when he does get traded. He'll sit for like the next week or two and then get traded. Um, I think he looked good in purple and black, and then being the main receiver for Lamar, and then helps open up some routes for Zay Flowers. So Zay would probably be the trade target in fantasy respects if he's going into the slot, and then Bateman's the other outside wide receiver that kind of really makes that offense pretty sound, especially with Henry how he's playing as well. So I like it a lot. I also like the Bills, like you mentioned. So it really depends on who's coughing up what to get him.
Yeah, I guess it really comes down to who's going to be the more aggressive team. I think they both have the cap space to bring him in. Um, I guess you'd have to listen to the Raiders' terms, and they want a second round pick and some compensation for Devontae. That's a pretty steep price, but I guess if you're someone like the Ravens who, you know, just put up a bunch of points on the Bengals and you're looking to maybe put someone on your team that'll put you even more over the top, you add Devonte Adams to that offense, Derrick Henry, Devonte Adams, Lamar Jackson. That is like a trio that's probably never been seen before in the NFL. It would be very interesting to see him with with the Ravens. I think that would be a very interesting move. I would imagine that catapults them to the number one offense in the league, and this takes a lot of pressure off of Derrick Henry if he's there because now you have someone that can complement you really
Mhm.
well down the field. It is interesting too because with the Ravens, there really hasn't been a lot of receivers that have come in there and had a ton of success. You would think the one guy that could do it is Devontae Adams.
Mhm.
So that'd be interesting for the Bills. I think they should do whatever it takes to get him. In this past game they played on Sunday, I think it's pretty obvious you need a playmaker. Keon Coleman is nice. He's too young. He can't handle a number one role yet. Khalil Shakur was good, but he's hurt right now. He's kind of a smaller guy. I don't know if he's going to be able to stay healthy on a consistent basis. You add Devontae Adams, he's twice what Stephon Diggs is in my mind. So I think that would be a huge pick for Buffalo to pick up.
No, definitely, I agree. I mean, just watching the game this past weekend, Houston, like Keon, it was even in the draft talks. Like his issue was separation from the QB corner, excuse me, and it showed. There was a couple of balls where, granted, they weren't the best placement by Josh, but I mean, he was tied up by Petrie, tied up by Stingley all day. There was one where Josh Allen threw the ball directly at his helmet. Keon wasn't even like focused on him. He was focused on the CB trying to break out. But yeah, I think if you give Josh Allen another weapon, that's also going to free up Keon, and he should be better in different formations and not going against CB1. So it could open up a lot of potential for him going forward, having Devontae.
Should we call Kaysen real quick?
I think we do. We need to get into this
Well, let's do
our
this.
league.
Let's give a quick little update on what we're looking like in our league. So our fantasy league, you have Hooker at 5-0. You have Kaysen at second at 3-2. Nimmer's tied there with at second with 3-2. Carlos has 3-2. Ricky has 3-2. So there's four guys with the same record. Then
Mhm.
you have me, Devin, Quaz at 2-3, and you and Austin at the bottom with 1-4 records.
But look at that points for though. I'm second
your
in the entire league.
your points for are staggering, but your points against are also pretty high as well.
It's fucked.
But anyways, to fill everybody in, I hope Hook's watching. There was a trade that went down. There was two trades that went down today. One with you and Quaz that happened with Aaron Jones, Debo, and Tutu Atwell. You get Aaron Jones. He gets Tutu Atwell and Debo. I like that trade for both sides, really. And then you have me, who I was shopping around Ayuk all day. I talked to nearly everybody in the league saying, like, please take Ayuk from me. Who can you give me? And everyone was giving me nothing. Kaysen had expressed some interest and then kind of ghosted me. And then I kind of get it because he works like a night shift. So I get that he's like sleeping during the day and he's working the night shift. He's super busy. Love him for the work he does. But it's kind of sucked because this morning I sent him a trade, Brandon Ayuk for DeAndre Swift straight up. And I really wanted that trade because I didn't want to lose any depth. I wanted to just trade away Ayuk and get like a running back in return. That's what I was hoping for. He didn't answer me. So I talked to a bunch of other people, ended up going to Hook, and Hook said Bijan, and my eyes just filled with hearts. And I was like, Bijan Robinson? And now I've got Bijan Robinson on my team, but I traded away Ayuk and Jonathan Taylor. So I may have lost some major depth. I like Bijan, but I'm pretty scared now. Let's call Kaysen live real quick. Let's
hit him up.
Let's see if we can pick up.
And the reason why we're also calling Kaysen is that there's a trade being proposed of Hook sending Ayuk to get Swift. So basically,
What's up, Kaysen? Hey, we're live right now. You're live on the podcast. You good with that?
I'm driving. What's up?
Hey, so I heard about this trade that is going down. Could be going down. Swift for Ayuk, huh?
Yes.
Kaysen, please don't do this. This is why.
I was gonna accept the trade with you, but I was working all last night and I got home and I didn't get to accept it. And then next thing I woke up and you traded him.
I know I moved too fast. I thought you were not interested.
Fuck all that. Tell him when we're talking trades, he stays up.
Like I said, I crashed out when I got home after work, and then I seen the trade. I was like, dang. And then Hooker messaged me for the same trade with Ayuk and Wilson. And I told him I was already gonna trade Swift for Ayuk. So I'm sorry, man.
Oh, it sounds like he's gonna do it.
Yeah, it does. I think I'm gonna do it too. He's a Bears fan. I'm a Niners fan. So we need some more players on our team.
Man,
shady work being done.
I can't be too mad because I worked too fast. It's really on me. It's okay, Kaysen. I would say try to trade with someone else like Darian. He's 1-4. He's probably pretty easy to trade with right now.
Oh yeah, Darian messages me every day. He's been trying.
Hey, ask him why you didn't text me back about CD.
Not making any trades or anything, and so far it's been good. So I don't know if I'm gonna mess up my juju with trading with Hooker. And I mean, me and him are 1-2, so it's kind of, I don't know, it's a little tricky one. I was really open with trading with you, just because I'm not trying to have Hooker win.
I know.
So it's kind of, I don't know. I don't think it's a win-win if me and him make this trade.
No, that Swift trade could be the one thing. He already has now a super stacked wide receiver room, and if you give him Swift, there's really no drop-off with Jonathan Taylor's injury. He'll just pick up with Swift, and then when Jonathan Taylor comes back, he's like Thanos. He's the best team in the league.
Yep.
Yeah, for real. How did that trade get approved? It's my question.
Is it unfair, you think?
I don't know. I mean, I don't think it was like super unfair, but his team is freaking stacked.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really stacked.
But that's the name of the game. Got to make trades, and people are willing to do it.
It's true. Well, I would say Kaysen, think really hard about trading with Hook here. But Darian wants to know, why didn't you respond to the CD Lamb trade that he sent you?
Dude, I've been asleep all day. But I don't know. I'm not really feeling CD. At one point I was, but the Cowboys to me just don't look. They just don't look in sync. And I know you guys have seen that Instagram meme, whatever, of CD talking shit to Dak. So I'm not really a fan of that. So
okay,
that's that. I don't know. I still gotta look at my options, but
yeah,
I'm not really too interested in CD right now. But we'll see what happens next week.
What, Kaysen, what are you looking for? Are you looking for a receiver, or what are you looking for?
Dude, honestly, I don't. I think my running backs are pretty solid, especially with Mostert coming back, and he had a pretty decent game. I feel like my bench is pretty good. My receivers, Garrett Wilson actually had a great game. I was so close to benching him this past week and playing Zay Flowers. But I think I might be looking more for a running back.
Okay.
If I do get Ayuk, just because of Mason, with him, with CMC possibly coming back. I don't know what the timetable is, but he's going to be coming back sometime. So with him, he is getting the reps that he needs, but eventually, obviously, that's going to go away once CMC's back.
Okay. I see your thought process here. Hey, maybe think about a Cooper Kupp for DeAndre Swift trade, maybe.
That is possible.
Okay.
That is possible.
Okay, I like that.
Wait to see, Drew. Wait to see.
All right, Kaysen, I'll talk to you later.
Of course. All right, man. Take care.
Thanks for joining us.
Of course. Bye.
All right. So I hope Hook saw that. He's gonna be so mad.
Yeah, he is. I told him to watch. I just got off the phone with him when I was pulling up.
I don't know if our comments are actually linked or not. Let me check the YouTube just to make sure. Man, that would really suck if they have that trade go down. It makes sense for Hook. I see why
It
he did
does.
this trade now.
I was talking to him and I was like, all right, let me get Zamir White. Just I'll give you Pat Fryermuth since he needs a tight end. And I got three of McBride, Fryermuth, and Njoku. But Njoku's been running my IR spot. And he's like, no, I'm gonna hold Zamir. And I was like, he's only put up 4, maybe 5 points max. He's like, but he's got 17 touches. And I was like, I mean, with the workload, I get it, but he's just not efficient. But he's going to hold on to every running back that he has.
Man, I'm so upset if he gets if Hook gets Swift. I'm gonna be so upset. I'm gonna be so sad.
I'll be salty for you.
I just worked too fast. I guess.
All right, closed mouths don't get fed. I mean, honestly, that's kind of.
Kaysen really never makes trades too. That's like the worst part about it.
Well, I think he's learned because like a couple of years ago, I fucked him over by accident. I sent him, I think it was 49ers defense, Mike Williams, and I think T. Higgins, and I got the Eagles defense and somebody else. And it was right when Mike Williams like tore his ACL,
Oh
so he
shit.
lost him, and then T got hurt for like 6 games, so he basically lost out. And then I got like the number 1 defense that year, so that I think kind of scorned him.
Yeah. Well, I hope my audience enjoyed some live fantasy interaction. There's a lot of drama in this league, and it's trade season. Like this is like the peak trade season where everyone starts trading away players. So it gets really interesting at this point. We had 2 trades go down today. There was nearly 3. Me and Quaz almost made another trade.
Oh, what was that one?
I thought about it really hard, and I didn't end up going with it, but it was going to be Mooney for Pittman.
That would have been a good thing for you. I mean,
Yeah,
if Flacco's playing, Pittman's like score increases, his value increases. But if it's Richardson, like everybody tanks.
that's what I'm afraid of. The coach Shane Steichen said that Richardson's going to be the number 1 quarterback when he comes back, and it looks like he could return at any point. Maybe he misses this next game, but
Mhm.
it sounds like he'll be back after that game.
Unfortunate. But
So, and that's why that was a big reason I traded away Jonathan Taylor, because I didn't really love the way it looked with Jonathan Taylor and Richardson in the same backfield. I like the Kirk Cousins Bijan combination a lot more. Um, and I guess I'm not losing out on like a ton. I just gave away a little bit of depth, which I guess is making me panic a little bit. I still have a decent crew of receivers. I just don't really have like a solid number 2 anymore with Ayuk
yeah,
being gone. But it's whatever. That's fantasy, baby. I'll be right in it this week because I'll have a healthy Bijan and James Cook and James Conner. So we should be
yeah,
okay.
you're going to be fine in the running back department.
Anyways, let's get back to the news for the weekend. After the Bengals game, which I guess we didn't do the week 5 reaction. We probably should have done that to start the show. We'll start with this Bengals game. I don't remember what the score was, but it was like
41-38.
There you go, 41-38. Came down to a 50-plus yard field goal from McPherson for the Bengals, and Holder dropped the ball,
Mhm.
and that led McPherson like 0.2 seconds from when the ball got actually put on the ground for his foot to hit it. There, if he would have made that, I mean, that would have been an amazing kick.
Oh, yeah.
But they ended up losing, and Joe Burrow after the game said we're not a championship team right now. Do you agree with that? Just by watching them over these past couple weeks.
Yeah, I mean, they're not playing to. We discussed it. I think they play to the team that they're playing's level. So they played a great game against Kansas City, down to the wire, and then they played to the Ravens level, down to the wire. But every other game, like Patriots, week one, they looked lost. They looked confused. Nothing was working. Ended up losing. So I don't think if you're a championship team, you have those highs and lows. Just they're fluctuating too much when it comes to their playing. So overall, yeah, they're not a championship team. He's right. I mean, especially with being the franchise QB, you're leading the locker room. You know the mentality, and you're trying to set the precedent for that mentality. And if no one is like on that same wavelength, yeah, you're not a championship team. So I think he's 100% right.
Yeah. That first game against the Patriots is kind of what I think a lot of people were expecting. They have notoriously started slow.
Mhm.
This is kind of what their offense looked like last year in that Patriots game. That's kind of what it felt like. But with all these other teams like the Chiefs, you competed with the Chiefs. With the Ravens, you competed with the Ravens. You should have beat the Ravens. You had every chance to beat the Ravens, and you lost. Um, this is for sure not a championship team. This is not even a playoff team. I think Zach Taylor is on the hot seat. I don't care what anyone says. I think the next coach to get fired could be Zach Taylor. Um, and I don't know who to put the blame on right now. You look at this game against the Ravens, there was that pick at the end of the game from Joe Burrow that kind of shifted things. But the defense also gave up 40 points, and their O-line was giving up sacks. The receivers look good. That's about it. I mean, that's really the only part of the team you kind of feel confident in.
Mhm.
I don't even know where you go from here. To me, you have to clean house. You got to get rid of this coaching staff and get a whole new coaching staff.
Yeah, I think it's time. I mean, Zach Taylor, it doesn't look like it's working. And you have all this young talent that got to a Super Bowl. Go back to that recipe, whatever you had, and don't muck it up and just like play to that level that you've been there before. So I think if I'm the Bengals owners, I'm cleaning house, starting fresh with a new coaching staff, new offensive coordinator, everything, and hitting square one.
Yeah, you hear the term Super Bowl window, and for the Bengals, I think that year they went to the Super Bowl, that was
Mm-hmm.
when the window opened. It's closing very, very fast here. You signed the Chiefs' old tackle, Orlando Brown. Is that his name?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Um, and that was supposed to be like the sign of, oh, this window's still open. With the way they're playing defense right now and the way they cannot finish games, this window is nearly shut and it might not ever reopen again. I feel bad for the Bengals, but I also think there's a mindset to this whole thing saying, we start slow every year for the whole fan base to think that. And I think I've even heard players say that where they say, yeah, we start slow every year, but then we get right back into it. That's not going to work, especially 1-4. If you started 1-2 and you're starting slow and then you start winning after that, maybe. But 1-4, it's never been done before where a team has won a Super Bowl with that record. So it's
Yeah, that
looking
was my
very
hot
bleak.
take like a couple weeks ago of like, all right, they've hit their losing streak, and now it's time for the win streak to come. And I may have jinxed it, put the like every time I've said something like that, the Minnesota against San Francisco, Minnesota won, handled them. I said the Bengals are gonna do like go on a win streak. They're losing terribly. Maybe just bank on the opposite of what I say. So
It's been a crazy topsy-turvy sort of season. Let's talk about some of these other games. Your Washington Commanders absolutely rolled the Browns. Did
Oh
you
yeah.
watch? Did you watch that game?
Uh it like being in the Dallas region, like it's all Houston, it's all Dallas on what they put on YouTube TV. Finally have been able to watch the Commanders play, and I was living for it. I was texting my aunt during the game, and we were like, wow, it feels good to be a fan again and actually like be intrigued by watching the game, not being crapped on by every team week in, week out. So it's been exciting. Honestly, Jaden Daniels is way more exciting than I thought he was going to be coming into this. Uh, you know how I had my skepticisms on him, but he is showing everybody wrong and why he should be the best player in the draft from this previous draft. So I'm excited.
Yeah, he's definitely got to win Offensive Rookie of the Year. I don't think there's any question about it.
Yeah, hands down, it's already his. Like he's showcased that he's got it.
It's exciting to watch the Commanders because they've kind of been one of those teams that has just been an afterthought for a long time now.
Oh yeah.
And to see what their offense is doing, they're putting up numbers probably franchise-wise, historic franchise numbers, but I think even some of the like regular season stats, some of the things they're doing are historic. And to think a rookie quarterback with a new offensive coordinator can come in and you look like this is really fun to watch.
Mm-hmm.
The Tampa Atlanta game too. That was another high scoring game on Thursday night. That was a crazy game. I remember there was something that happened, like the drop ball I think from Mooney in the fourth quarter to, I think there was like less than 2 minutes left and Mooney dropped the ball and they had to punt the ball, or that was 4th down. I can't remember. That was Thursday night, so it feels like it was so long ago. I think it was a turnover on downs.
Mm-hmm.
And it was under 2 minutes, and I was like, oh, that's the game. And I went and brushed my teeth and like got ready for bed, and then I came back and it was overtime. And I was like, wait, what just happened? And then Atlanta ends up winning the game. Kirk O'Chain's out there was doing the swag surf with the crowd.
Yeah, the same thing. Like I was watching it for the most part and keeping up on the fantasy app, and I just remembered I was like, oh, like Atlanta just lost, like whatever, I'm gonna knock out, and then something like my phone dinged. I woke up like 30 minutes later. And I'm like, oh, let me check the result. Let me see if Tampa Bay won, and they're still playing. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, how is this still playing? Like, how are they still going in OT? And then like was watching the app and just watched them win. So it was a really good game. I really liked watching the first half too. So all around, the NFC South has been showing that it's probably one of the most exciting divisions in the league.
Yeah, that's probably been one of the most surprising things about this year. That division has kind of been the weakest division, or one of the weaker ones at least, for a couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
And you see these teams competing: Atlanta, Tampa, not Carolina, but
And the Saints.
the Saints. They started the year hot. They look like they're slowing down now.
Yeah.
It looks like it's going to be a very close race between Tampa and Atlanta at the end there.
I mean, we called it. We said it was going to be a foot race.
Yeah, that's true. Indianapolis, Jacksonville, that was another really high-scoring game. Jacksonville won that game, right? That was their first win.
Mm-hmm.
That was pretty surprising. I didn't watch any of that game because I wasn't really that interested.
It wasn't that good. The Jags were just giving it up towards the end, like letting Indianapolis get back into it.
It's so weird because I thought their defense, the Colts defense, looked so good against the Steelers, and then they put up a bunch of points to the Jaguars. They let them score all these points.
Yeah, it was I don't understand Indianapolis. Like the offense gets hot one moment, competes against Pittsburgh and even Texans week one, and then they're lost the rest of the fucking time. Like they're just such a hot and cold team.
Broncos shine against the Raiders. The Raiders switched quarterbacks mid-game. It was not looking good for Gardner Minshew. 100-yard pick six for Surtain, and another pick, I think, for Surtain in the win. They sacked both quarterbacks a bunch of times. I don't remember how many sacks it totaled to, but it was a lot of sacks. It's pretty awesome to see. I saw some stat today that if the playoffs started today, the Broncos are in. So,
Oh, really?
yeah, which that is pretty crazy. I don't think this is going to continue, but maybe I'm wrong. Um, Steelers versus Dallas. I'm going to be honest. I couldn't watch this entire game. It was way too late. The game started.
When it got delayed, I was like, I'm not watching this. It's already a fucking joke. There's no shot.
They said the game was going to start at 9:45. I was like, oh my God. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah, what time did it end? It was like 12:59.
I don't even know. I was long asleep. I I was laying in bed watching it, and I wake up and it's like the beginning of the fourth quarter, and I see the score, and I was like, I can't watch this. I'm going to bed.
Yeah, there was no point.
But I can't believe they lost that game to Dallas. That's a pretty eyebrow-raising loss.
Yeah, I mean, I think we all said Steelers win that.
Yeah.
So, ugh.
Just watching some of the highlights and things that I saw that the Steelers are running a lot of like triple tight end sets. I don't understand that. This thinking that you can run this kind of offense and succeed, this super conservative offense where sure you're not turning the ball over, but like if your running back Najee's only getting 2 to 3 yards a carry, you're gonna have to throw the ball down the field at some point.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's kind of what bit them in the ass in that game.
Yeah. Yeah, the Arthur Smith offense wasn't my favorite when he was over at Atlanta. He doesn't use his players correctly. I mean, I get putting maybe like a two tight end set with Fryermuth and Darnell Washington because that dude's a freak of nature. But like you gotta get the ball distributed around to Pickens, to Fryermuth, dare I say Calvin Austin. I don't even know if he's still on the team, but
yes,
yeah. I mean, if that's your wide receiver too, you got a fucking problem. You should have made a bigger move. But outside of that, I mean, I understand if you run a two tight end set with Washington Fryermuth, that's pretty potent there. Plus, Darnell can duel as a blocking tight end. He's more a blocking tight end than a receiving one, but just having him on the field could open up some things. But yeah, triple tight ends, like you're losing an athlete then.
and it's crazy to think that they lost to this Cowboys team because if you looked at the injuries that they had during this game, Micah Parsons wasn't there, DeMarcus Lawrence wasn't there, Deron Bland wasn't there. There was a whole bunch of people missing from that defense, and then offense for the Steelers just was not moving the ball at all. And I guess there's kind of been some flashes of that in these past games. Maybe we should have seen this coming, but it looks like this offense is struggling and they need to do something. I don't know if anything's going to happen because Arthur Smith's system is it's just a weird system. I don't really know like how to describe it. It's very conservative. They feature the tight end in a world where like tight ends aren't really featured anymore besides your top guys like Travis Kelce.
Yeah.
Like he runs end arounds with tight ends, which is like so weird.
What the fuck? Oh, I mean, Jonnu Smith is different than Fryermuth and Darnell Washington and whoever the third tight end is. Jonnu like is really athletic, like speed wise. So I understand incorporating things when you have him. That's why he also I shouldn't say he's doing decent in Miami, but he went to another system that utilizes motions and the tight ends a little bit more. So he could get more usage. But yeah, to bring that kind of thing with Freiermuth, who's more of a possession catching tight end, blocking, it doesn't make any sense. But I'm not a coach.
I forgot to mention I went to the Penn State this past weekend.
Oh, yeah, I saw it.
Penn State game. I didn't know that's where Freiermuth went.
I didn't know that either. That's new to me.
They talked about it like on the overhead. They talked about some of the notable alumni, and he was one of the guys mentioned. I didn't know that's where he went. That's a really cool atmosphere, Penn State. Makes me want to, because Ohio State's not too far from here, makes me want to go to an Ohio State game.
You should.
Yeah.
You should. Big Ten football, tailgates for one, massive. Love them. But just even the game itself, nuts. I went to an Iowa-Nebraska game with Quaz. Like, one, I was freaking sloshed going into it. But you keep that buzz going because everyone's yelling, everyone's jumping. Like, you even partake in the wave to the children's hospital at the Iowa Stadium. It was nuts. It was cool. So I highly recommend Ohio State. When do they play Penn State? It's like a couple of weeks from now.
They play now, this week.
Oh, it's this week? I thought they were playing USC.
I thought Ohio State was coming.
That'd be nuts.
Let me see.
Yeah, USC's playing Penn State this week.
Oh, so it's next week? Oh, no, it's 2 weeks from now.
2 weeks. Yeah, November 2nd. Two against
the fourth.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's pretty shocking. Watching them live, I don't think they're the fourth best team in the nation.
They'll lose pretty handily to Ohio State and then drop to 8 or 9.
But they have a really cool atmosphere. The fans there are just so into football. It's really cool to be around. We were up in the, not nosebleeds, but pretty close to the nosebleeds, and the sun was like on us the whole game. I got like a half sunburnt. You can't really see it now, but like after the game, I looked like half of my face was sunburnt. It was a fun game to watch, though. UCLA stinks.
Yeah.
The Bills and Texans game. So we kind of got into this a little bit. Let's discuss the ending of that game. So they were in a situation where the Bills got the ball back, and it was 20-20. They could have just ran the ball, run the clock out, and they're on the 1 yard line. They're 1 yard line, so they got to go 99 yards. And I don't remember how much time was left exactly, but it wasn't a terrible, like, huge amount of time. They decide to go with 3 straight passes, and that doesn't work, and then they punt the ball, and the Texans get the ball back, have a 12-yard punt return, kick the field goal. Hell of a field goal kick by Fairbairn, but the game was over after that.
Yeah, I was watching that last little bit, and I was shocked to throw it 3 times, and like a couple of them were just really bad throws by Josh Allen. Like, if you're in the 1 or like even at your 3 yard line, just run it like 1, maybe 2 times. Open it up with a pass. Like, just be simple with it and just drain the clock to then go into overtime. But Josh Allen, he's been burnt pretty bad in OT, so he was probably a little bit fearful of it. If he goes down, scores a touchdown, or the rules are different. If you score a touchdown first, you win basically. But like
regular season,
yeah. But he was burnt in the playoffs a couple times. I get it. I understand. But as a coaching staff, like, you want to hedge your bets. You want to go in, run the ball, tank the time, and then go into overtime. So it's a little bit better of a playing field because you have the chance to receive it, and go down and score and win the game. So I think it was just a mismanagement, coaching, play calling, and then even Josh Allen, I would have audibled at the line and be like, all right, let me free up some space for myself to get it to whomever to get down the field. So I think it was just a mismanagement and horrible play calling.
Yeah, it was terrible play calling. I think after the first two passes, if those didn't work, I think that's where you hand the ball off.
Yeah.
Because what they did there, you handed the game to the Texans. That was such a blunder of play calling to go three straight long balls in a row. Like, I mean, unless they're calling an all-out blitz, like, I don't understand what the thinking there is.
Yeah, it was
And
a horrible.
the fact that you're on the 1 yard line, like, even if you get one of those completions, you still have 40, 50, 60 yards to go. So, like, what's the point?
Yeah. It didn't make any sense. The first one was that deep ball to Mac Hollins, who had a step on the guy,
Yeah.
but Josh threw such an inaccurate ball. It was like, what, I think 6-7 yards ahead of Mac. And I was like, you just lost right then and there. Just on that one big play, you're trying to do too much. Like, you just sealed the deal there. But horrible play calling at the end of it.
Yeah. I don't know, man. With the Bills, it feels like their thinking is Josh Allen's going to be Superman all day, every day. And, like, I feel like we've seen this over and over and over and over again. That doesn't work. Like, it hasn't worked with Lamar. It hasn't worked with Josh Allen. Like, even Mahomes, there's an argument. He's not Superman all the time.
Mm-mm. He's like kind of having such a mid-year. If you look at his stats, like he's just riding the coattails of his defense again. Like he gets his points. Don't get me wrong.
He's a facilitator. That's all he's
Yeah.
doing. But that's the way you win. I mean,
at the end of it, yeah.
These guys that try to put the entire world on their back and win the game just on their own, you're going to get some great highlights like Lamar this past game with the Bengals. You're going to see some great things. But, like, that's not going to work in the playoffs.
Mm-mm.
And, like, you look at some of the things Lamar was doing, too. There was, I don't know if it was 2 or 3. I know for sure it was 2 fumbled snaps that could have changed the entire game. He just got really lucky and got the ball back.
Yeah, the last one that was he was like trying to get the ball. He was like clapping, and the center at like the last second snapped it, and Lamar was like taking his eyes off the ball, hit him straight in the shoulder, bounced off, and then kicked by his O lineman. Ended up losing it to the defensive tackle of Cincy, brought him into field goal range, and then I think that's where McPherson just blundered it and just.
It was a holder.
It was crazy sequence.
Holder's fault. It wasn't really McPherson's. I mean, maybe he misses that kick anyways, but when that guy dropped the snap, my heart sank for him. I was like, "Oh, I hope he doesn't get cut." That's a pretty shitty time for that to happen.
Yeah.
Let's get into our hot take Tuesday. I will start with mine. My hot take this Tuesday, just watching the games this past weekend. I believe the Vikings are a one-and-done playoff team. So they'll get in, they'll play their first game, and they will lose that first game. I ultimately think that Sam Darnold, I like what he's done this season.
Mm-hmm.
There's a chance that maybe he's turned his career around. I don't really think that's the case. But I do think he might be a guy that's not tier 1, tier 2, but that tier 3 starter that can be on a team I mean, certainly, like, he's better than Gardner Minshew. He's certainly better than some of these other guys you see in the league. Andy Dalton. He's kind of like a younger version of Andy Dalton, really. Um, but I don't think this is going to work in the playoffs against a really good team. If the matchup is there in that first game in the NFC and you're playing someone like Seattle or some other wild card team, say they keep this number one seed, then maybe you're okay. Maybe you win that first game. But if you line up against Washington, that's going to be an interesting matchup. If you line up against Detroit or any of the NFC East teams like the Eagles or the Cowboys, that would be an interesting matchup. So I'm going to say the Vikings are a one and done playoff team this year. Do you have a hot take?
Man, I was in my head all day thinking of like what could be a good hot take, and I was stumped. But what I did like, and it maybe is not a hot take, but could be signs of growth, is the Giants' offense. I mean, they were getting after it against Seattle. And this is surprising because I had Seattle as like a defensive lock, and they were showcasing it in the beginning of the game. But with the fumble return for a touchdown, I was happy days. And then I don't know what it was, but the Giants' offense was clicking. Daniel Jones was clicking. He had Darius Slayton for over 122 yards. Wan'Dale Robinson, he's just a fucking PPR machine. He's just catching like 9-10 balls a game. But they were consistent. They were moving down the field. And then even the running back, the backup to Singletary, he had like 129 yards. They were clicking. And like Seattle has a decent defense, but they were – I think maybe my hot take is that this Giants offense and their defense could be kind of a dark horse moving forward into the season. Maybe they steal a game from Dallas. Maybe they steal a game from Philly. Maybe we see Washington and New York 1-2, Dallas third, Eagles last.
Whoa.
Yeah, okay, hot fucking take on the fly. Will it happen? I fucking hope not.
I could see them stealing a game or two against some of these NFC East teams.
Yeah, I do
Have
too.
have they played Washington yet?
Yeah, they lost
They
21-18.
Yeah, it was a close game.
Mm-hmm.
It was a field goal winning game.
Yeah, Neighbors popped off for like 33 points.
That was a game he got the concussion a couple weeks ago, right?
No, he got a concussion from Dallas game.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean they are sneaky. They have I'm a big fan of Coach Dayball. I think he's a really good coach that has kind of just been sitting with Daniel Jones there, and
shitty GM in front office.
You can't really do a whole lot with some of those guys you have on that team, but they do. I like some of the players they have on defense. Their whole defensive line is someone to factor in on every single film study because they have some guys that can really get after the quarterback and also stuff the run. It's just interesting because like their offense is just kind of you watch them and it feels like everyone outside of Neighbors, it's just kind of like replacement guys. They're just like guys you would see on different teams for the next 5 years. They're on a different team each year.
No, I agree with you. I mean, Darius Slayton, has he always been with the Giants?
He's been there for a while.
For a while, yeah. I mean, yeah, everyone's kind of just like, oh, and they're probably going to move around. They're going to be journeymen after this.
Let's get into our Rage Cage. So I know you said that one of us mentioned yours earlier, but did you want to get into yours now?
Yeah, we might as well hop into mine. Mine, I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is. I I have so much love for DJ Moore. We do. I don't think we even talked about this. This is another thing that's been pressing on me. DJ Moore, my guy deserves his targets. He's like the best receiver on your squad. He's healthy. He's consistent. Mind you, I think he's one of 4 receivers in fantasy that's always had double digits every week. And the offense that their offensive coordinator, I forget what his name is, but I was looking at these charts of when he was over at Seattle of the route tree for JSN and DK and Lockett. And it was like 3 different areas of the field. And then they show a comparison that of DJ Moore's, and it's the same. He's running like into 3 different areas of the field, 3 different types of routes, but without the offensive coordinator, I forget his name, but JSN now is all over the field. He's getting different angles, different route trees, being placed all over the field. He's got more flexibility and he's producing. I'm mad as hell that this offensive coordinator came in and he had high regard and he's wasting away this talent that is called DJ Moore. And then he has a glimpse this week, 2 touchdowns. Yay, great. But I'm going to need that consistent shit going forward. Me and every DJ Moore owner out here needs that going forward. Give him the damn ball because he's special. He was special at Carolina. Didn't have jack shit throwing it to him. But we're right here right now. You got your QB of the future, so to speak. He's looked like shit before, like the first 4 weeks. O-line looks bad. But now we have a turning stone, like right here. Let's take it, push forward. And I'm tired of seeing DJ only at 11 points. I need him at 27. I need him at 30. I need him at 49 like he did last year against the Commanders. Get him the goddamn ball.
He is such an interesting player because I feel like he is 100% a top 10 receiver in this league and has the speed and route running ability that is comparable to some of the top guys in the league, very top guys. And for whatever it is, wherever he goes, it's like the quarterback can't see him. It is so strange to me because he is such a good player. And I think they know that with the Bears. They just signed him to a huge contract. So, man.
It don't make no sense, bro. Get him the ball. Just throw it. Just throw it up. My boy gonna catch it.
And he's kind of, what's cool about him too is I feel like in Hail Mary situations, he might be like one of the best in the league. He's come up with one huge one against Atlanta last year when he was, or 2 years ago when he was with Carolina. And there was a game this year where I noticed it. They threw a Hail Mary at the end of the half and he stayed back to catch the tip and he almost got it. I think he did catch it and he went down.
He caught it, but he was tackled at the 1, yeah.
At the 1 yard line. So like he has those instincts on those kind of plays. He's a really good player. I don't know. I don't get it.
I love the guy. I've been as you know, every draft I'm like, he's on the motherfucking board. I got him.
Yeah. He's a good player. My rage cage, and I didn't want to give too much away earlier, but this is shouting out the New York Jets. This is for you guys. I have been kind of hating on you guys for a while now, mostly Aaron Rodgers, mostly because you're quarterback. But what you did today with firing Robert Saleh, poverty move. You've been a poverty franchise for a while now. This is exactly why you're the Jets, because you start a season and you think that you can just fire a coach and everything will be fine. I don't get that. The defensive coordinator, we said his name earlier, Olbrich. I don't remember what it's called, but the strength of the team has been the defense. So you're going to fire Saleh to pretty much get the clone version of him and be like, all right, you're going to be better for us, right? No, that's not going to work. This relationship with Hackett and Aaron Rodgers, that owner, Woody Johnson, He should go to Aaron Rodgers and say, listen, I know you like the guy. It's not working. It hasn't worked for a while. It was terrible in Denver. We have to get rid of him. He should have been fired today too. If you're going to fire Saleh, fire Hackett. Makes no sense. And I know Rodgers has something to do with this firing. There was a clip over this past weekend in London, and they had press conferences with Saleh and Aaron Rodgers, and they talked about the cadence calls. How you kind of know how Aaron Rodgers likes to hit people with like the hot cadence calls or double huts and triple huts, or just kind of play around with the defense doing that, which is great. I think it works. I think it's cool. It keeps people on their toes. But Robert Saleh said maybe we should take that back a bit. And I think that was the final straw. I think Aaron Rodgers was like, oh, you can't say that to me. And I think that's ultimately what led to the firing. I'm sure Rodgers was in the owner's office talking about that with him. And Rodgers, you're blinded. You're absolutely blinded. Your favorite receiver on this team is Lazard. And Hackett's your favorite coach. You want to bring back Jordy Nelson, I'm sure. Like, you're blind. This stuff isn't working anymore. It's not 2012. You're not the same guy anymore. You're an old man on the verge of retirement, and you're playing on a team that's never going to get anywhere. You're not going to win a Super Bowl. Just retire now. I thought he got hurt in this past game, and they go into that blue tent. I thought he was just going to stay in there, and that was going to be his dark place, his new dark place. Stay there for 24 hours and just stay in that blue tent the whole game. The guy's a joke. This team's a joke. They are just doing poverty moves every single year. What a joke. What a joke.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Let's go to break. We're going to be back in 2 minutes. Welcome back to the Do Not Disturb Football Podcast. I don't know if that was 2 minutes or not, but I think it was close enough. For the people watching, Nimmer's not here. He usually runs these really cool graphics, and I am a little inept at doing that, so we don't do that when Nimmer's gone. He's in Utah right now. He was able to join when he was in Oklahoma, but for Utah, he's got obligations going on tonight and tomorrow during the show. So he will not be joining us this week, unfortunately. I'm sure he'll be back next week, and this show will look a lot more pretty and glamorous. I wish we had that Rage Cage graphic that he provides us with, because I love that graphic. But
yeah, fire.
yeah,
I
I
love
think that's
that.
such a cool graphic. But let's get into the waiver wire report for people that are super invested into fantasy. Man, it's kind of that time for the waiver wire report. You better nail these guys that you're going to pick up, because you're kind of entering this zone probably this week and the 2 weeks after. You're going to pick up a guy on the waiver wire, someone is in your league, that's going to be a big name in the playoffs. And these are kind of the last weeks to do it. So you better nail these guys. Darian, I'll start with you. Who are you targeting in the waiver wire? Who are you advising people to target?
Yeah. First and foremost, the screaming one. And if you're a ETN owner, run to the waivers and get Tank Bigsby. He's averaging 8 yards per carry, which is phenomenal. He just put up an RB1 week with 25.5 points. So he's definitely on the radar. He's been on the radar for the past couple of weeks with the inefficiency of Travis Etienne. He's definitely the guy I'm gunning for, just to, hedge my bets, have both starter and the backup. But another one that I like is Roshan Johnson. He's definitely a good ad, but I'm actually going to switch up my player on the rise if we're going to do that. Are we doing that?
We are doing that.
Okay, bet. Yeah, I'm going to change it, but Roshan, definitely a good ad, just with, short yardage gains, getting TDs. And then wide receivers, I'm liking Michael Wilson. I said it earlier in the year. He should be picking up some steam and getting more target share as well. But with that, those are definitely my top three: is Tank Bigsby, Roshan Johnson, and then Michael Wilson.
Yeah, all those guys are going to be pretty good pickups. For quarterbacks, some of the names I think you should be looking out for. If Geno Smith is out there, I think you grab him. If you're having troubles with quarterback and you need someone to step in as your quarterback one, I think Geno can do that for you. Trevor Lawrence, I think it's kind of tough to judge off of one performance this last week, but it looked like a step in the right direction. He may be someone you want to pick up as like a safe quarterback 2 option for you. Caleb Williams, I think he's available in a lot of leagues right now. I would definitely take a look at him if you're struggling at quarterback. He can kind of provide you with a running aspect as well at times, so he could be a good quarterback to pick up. And Jared Goff, I think he was highly rostered to start the year, but for whatever reason, he got dropped by a lot of people.
He took a dip.
So if he's there and you need someone at quarterback 2, I think he's a very solid option for that. Roshan Johnson, Darian mentioned him. I've been pounding the table for him. He scored 2 touchdowns this past weekend. He's been scoring touchdowns every single game for the past 3 weeks, I believe. Some other names for running back outside of Roshan and Tank Bigsby. Some guy that I am actually shocked is only owned by like 50% of people right now, Jaylen Warren for the Steelers. I think that is someone that is valuable and people should be aiming to pick him up. Maybe the numbers aren't there right now because he's been dealing with injuries and things like that. But I think you're seeing that this offense for the Steelers is not working. Jaylen Warren might be that guy that ignites this offense and brings a new dynamic. So I would definitely pick him up if he's there. Jalen Wright for the Dolphins, he could be someone sitting there with Achane having that concussion. You might want to pick up Jalen Wright. He's kind of been a name talked about all year. It might be the time to pick him up now.
Yep.
Trey Sermon, that is the backup for Indianapolis. He had a pretty decent game. I think he got like 12 points this last game. Once Jonathan Taylor comes back, he's probably, non-existent. But for this week and maybe even the week after, depending on when Jonathan Taylor's return time is. He could be a solid player. The receiver that I think could be the biggest pickup right now outside of, I really think that this waiver wire wave is running back centered. You're going to want to pick up some of these running backs. But the one guy I do trust a lot in right now, that is Jalen Tolbert for Dallas with this knee injury. I think it's a knee injury that Brandon Cooks is dealing with. He's going to be missing. I think they set up to 4 weeks last week, so that'll be 3 more weeks now.
Yeah.
Jalen Tolbert saw a lot of action in the Steelers game. I think that his role is going to grow, and if it grows enough to where he's scoring touchdowns for them on a consistent basis, even when Cooks comes back, Tolbert still might be a guy that they rely on, much like they did with Michael Gallup a few years ago. He was kind of that wide receiver 3 that was making a bunch of splash plays for them. Another guy I've been kind of pounding the table for, Trey Tucker for the Raiders. He is kind of sitting in a 1A, 1B type spot now that Devontae's there. He's kind of sharing a role with Jacoby Myers, and they're kind of getting the same amount of targets and snap count. But I think he is someone that they're using in a lot of different ways. They're using him in like jet sweep plays, also like screen plays and down the field plays. So I would pick him up if you are needing your wide receiver and all your other options are gone. Tight
Do you like Bateman?
Rashad Bateman?
Yeah, do you like him moving forward? I mean, say the Ravens don't get Adams. I mean, he looked all right, and they're going against the Commanders secondary, which is basically dead last, probably second to last at this time. So you think he might be a good waiver wire ad kind of in deeper league?
Yeah, maybe. It depends on how deep it is. He's really unpredictable in fantasy. He could have a game where he has 0 points. I think he's done that multiple times. And then he'll come right back around and score 2 touchdowns or, have like a really big yardage game. And he's very up and down. So maybe pick him up just to have as the last spot on your bench. But I don't really know if he's that great of a pickup. Tight ends, I'm going to be honest, there's not a ton of tight ends on the waiver wire right now. If Tucker Kraft from the Packers is still there, that's really your only option. He had 2 good games in a row. I'm assuming he's gone from last week's performance, but if he's still there, that would be the guy I would advise to pick up for tight ends.
I'd say maybe Cade Otton.
Yeah.
Maybe he's a stretch. I mean, if you have him starting in your lineup, that's crazy. You should probably trade to upgrade your tight end. But he might be a safe, tight end 2 just for your bye week. Just throw in there just to get some garbage points. But, yeah, my analysis from the QBs, RBs, wide receivers, really in line with what you mentioned. Tight ends really aren't doing it for me this year. I mean, quite frankly, they're not even producing. I think Brock Bowers is like the only one that's actually been kind of consistent, and that's in air quotes consistent. But yeah, when it comes to the waiver this time around, it's definitely running back focused. So grab those handcuffs when you can.
Let's do the defense start of the week, and then we'll do the players on the rise after that. Who are you looking for to stream this week on defense?
Yeah, I like a couple of defenses. I think I like the Falcons against Carolina. Right now, I think they're projected 5.6 points. But I just think the Falcons defense overall with Justin Simmons, is it Jesse Bates, AJ Terrell, all of them going against Carolina. I think they're going to lock it down, especially with Thielen being on IR, Leggett questionable. All you have left is stopping the run game of Chuba and locking up Deontay Johnson. So I think they could have a really good outing with a lackluster offense from Carolina, and they just shut shit down. So I like them in this one, and then I also like the Chargers against Denver. Sorry about that, Drew.
I agree.
But I think that's a pretty solid matchup for the Chargers to lock up Sutton, Javonte Williams. I mean, they're not people I'm writing home. Well, I forget what the phrase is, but the Denver offense isn't the most attractive. They're scoring, but I like the Chargers defense in this one. I think they could have a really good outing.
Yeah, the Broncos, they just had their best game of the season offensively, and that was against the Raiders. There's been a lot of teams having really good games against the Raiders, so I think the Chargers is a really good pickup this week for defenses. My defense that I'm telling people to go out and pick up, that would be the Houston Texans versus New England. It was just announced today that Drake May is going to start his first game of his career in the regular season. So I think, when you see rookie quarterbacks come in, you don't usually see a whole bunch of complex looks. You usually see a simpler offense just to kind of get their feet under them. If you take Drake May's first preseason game in a snapshot and you want to kind of look at like what this game's going to look like, this is going to be a team full of first string starters that are coming at him. I think the Patriots are going to struggle this week. I wouldn't be surprised if it's a blowout. And I think they're going to get some turnovers against Drake May. So I would go ahead and snag the Texans defense. But that Chargers defense, that's probably got to be the number one pickup right now for defenses. Let's do
priorities right now.
Let's do the players on the rise. So these are players that we've kind of done this segment before. These are players that we feel like are either like steadily climbing, or we feel like right now they're going to be starting to make a huge difference. I'll start with you, Darian. Who is your player on the rise?
Yeah, so pretty surprising guy. So especially with Mixon being hurt and continued to be questionable, it's been kind of a two-headed monster in the backfield of Cam Akers. And my guy that I think is on the rise truly is Dare Ogunbunwale. I hope I pronounced that correctly. But this dude has been more efficient than Cam Akers when he's come in, and he's got the receiving upside. So the past two games I want to really highlight: against Buffalo, he had 14.7 points, and then against Jacksonville, he had 15.4 fantasy points, really stemming from the receiving aspect. He put up 47 yards and a touchdown against Jacksonville, and then just had 6 catches on 7 targets for 57 yards against Buffalo. So if Mixon is out again, and then Cam Akers is taking more of the rushing attempts, get Ogunbunwale for the receiving upside. He's going to get you points going forward. So he's on the rise, especially if Mixon is out.
Definitely. He looked like a good player this last game against the Bills. He seems to be the better running back than Akers for sure. My player on the rise, you didn't name him, but you did talk about him, Tyrone Tracy Jr. from the Giants. He was someone that I was kind of watching before the fantasy season started. I believe he went to Rutgers. I could be wrong, but I think that's where he went. He played receiver and running back at Rutgers at times, so he has that built-in catching ability. Probably a better receiver than a lot of backs in the league. He hasn't really shown that yet, but I do think that is something you'll see with his performance that he had this past game against the Seahawks, who up until this point has kind of been a pretty good defense. And I guess the Lions kind of blew them open too. So But for Tyrone Tracy, he had 14 points in this last game, 18 carries for 129 yards. That's a pretty big day for a rookie running back. If he starts catching the ball, I think he could be a big pickup. Actually, I didn't mention him, but if you're in a situation, Tank Bigsby is going to be gone, I would say pick up Tyrone Tracy because he might be one of those guys that's later in the season, a big name in fantasy. And he's my player on the rise.
I like it.
So that is pretty much everything from us today. Nimmer should be back on Tuesday. We'll be just me and Darian, the Double D's, back here tomorrow. So come fill your cup up with us. Is there anything you want to talk about before we get out of here, Darian?
There was something earlier I thought about, but I left my notebook back at the office, so it'll be for tomorrow. I think it was a secondary hot take, but I'll have it ready for tomorrow when we do pretty much everything else.
Sounds good. Well, that is everything from us today. I hope you enjoyed the show. We had a little bit of fantasy talk at the end. A lot of reactions from this past weekend. It was a great weekend for NFL football. We'll get into the Against the Spread segment tomorrow where we'll talk about who we're picking to cover for the game. So make sure you tune in for that. That should be everything from us. So just have a good night, and we will see you tomorrow.